Hello. In this clip from our Justia webinar, Converting Leads to Clients and Navigating Critical Moments in Legal Consultation, Adam Boyd answers questions from the audience and shares his final thoughts regarding lead conversion. If you want to see more Justia videos on law practice and legal marketing, be sure to subscribe to our channel. That sounds great. Thanks, Adam. We can definitely move into the Q&A. I'm just going to stop your sharing for a moment. And then if we do have time at the end, we can either send you all those resources for the toolkit that I know Adam had at the end of his presentation, or if you wanted to go through it, we can as well. We'll just kind of play that by ear. But if you do have any questions for Adam, I know we already have quite a few, but if you do want to submit them, you can feel free to do so by clicking that Q&A button at the control panel at the bottom of your screen and submitting them. We can go ahead and dive right in. So I know the first question that we got was, what is your opinion about the impact of the Zoom consultation versus an in-person consultation?
At the end of the day, each of you are running your own practice, and you've got to make decisions for what works best for you. I'd like you to be in person where you can, because you can identify physical tells, you can see body language, you can engage a little bit more. But you can still do a lot through Zoom. Now, I've worked with organizations and firms where they're on Zoom and the other person doesn't turn on. So we just say, can you turn on your screen? There's a lot that you guys we get in life simply by asking. And I prefer Zoom to the phone, but I'm okay with just being on the phone as well. What happens is the medium is going to determine what sense you lean on. So if you're on the phone, you've really got to listen. You've got to listen anyway, but you don't have your eyes to guide you. So I know a lot of you are probably in a place now where a lot more of your consults are being done over Zoom. One of the things that makes that really important is setting expectations or how it needs to be run. Your intake team can do this. You can do this the way you set up email or text, but they need to allot a certain amount of time. Here's what's going to occur. They need to show up. They also need to not be distracted. I know some people take Zoom calls while they're driving. I'm amazed that we don't have more fatalities because of that. But I would really set the expectation. I think you can still be as effective. My guess, if I had to put money on it, is in person, you will always convert more.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Adam. Our next question was, can you re-explain the concept of anchoring?
Yes. So this is a tool used in psychology and in negotiation. But let's just talk about negotiations. And if Nina and I are negotiating over something, you've heard a lot about, there are all sorts of thoughts, but one of the, who this person goes first, they lose. What I want to do with Nina is, let's pretend we're negotiating over what I want to be a $500,000 deal. But I know, hey, with Nina, I've got to kind of move her off of her original position. So I will throw down an anchor of a much larger number. In this case, I might say, hey, Nina, this is going to be $900,000. And I know Nina's going to work me down, but I want to get to 500,000, because if she was going to start at 100 and I throw down an anchor of 900, it automatically moves her off. So here's a great example of this. When asking people how many countries they believed there were in the world, it was some research done, and you took a large sample of people. They would ask people before that, what are the last two digits of your social security number? The higher the last two digits, the more countries they believed there were in the world, because they anchored on a higher number. So let's just pretend, I don't know what your fees are, whoever asked this, maybe it's your average case size is 10 grand. Depending on the type of case, what I'm looking for at some point is to have a conversation about numbers and money that are significantly greater than your fees. Maybe it's lost earnings, maybe it's the value of the assets, maybe it's what's at stake. Because what happens is, when that number is 3 to 5 times greater than your fees look, sound, and feel a lot more reasonable. Now, what will happen is, this is not a silver bullet in every consult, but you can start to see it statistically bear out over a large number. One of the places we see this is restaurants who want to raise money, sometimes, not all of them, when they want to raise prices, they will have at the top left corner, the first thing you see, one of the most expensive things on the menu, because it anchors you on a new number, and every other price can be raised after that because you're going to have less objection to it. So we can deal with it somewhere else.
Awesome.
Nina, do you want me to read these, or do you want to read them? I'm happy either way.
I was thinking maybe we would take like 2 more questions,
Okay.
and then we can circle back if you'd like to share the rest of your toolkit if people have time.
Okay, sure.
So the next one that really relates to what you were just talking about, does offering a no charge consultation versus charging maybe signal weakness on talking money later? What's your opinion on that?
I don't have a strong opinion. I think that's mostly in your head. Here's what I think a lot of people are concerned about that. My bigger concern, and this is me, I'm not Moses coming down the mountain with the tablets here, but when you charge for a consult, you feel obligated that you've got to tell them how to solve the problem. But the truth is, telling them how to solve the problem is something they can't do without hiring you. I think it's fine to offer no charge consult depending on where you are in your career. In fact, what you probably want to do is run as many consults as possible, but simply have the people vetted beforehand through intake, the way you market, and how you bring those in. Because eventually, as you and your firm grow, you're going to have other people running those consults, and then you're only taking the ones that are the most qualified. I don't think it signals weakness at all. For a lot of you, you want as many consults as you can get because it's batting practice and you're trying to improve your skill set in this area.
Awesome. Thanks for that insight. Our last question before we maybe circle back to that toolkit is, can you provide a few examples of successful techniques or maybe things to say if a client introduces objections or resistance during a consultation?
This is a good one. And here's what I would suggest, because I want to come back. There's going to be a rapport one we can address in the toolkit. I don't look at objections as a big issue. If Nina and I are discussing something and she brings up an objection, what I really want to do is understand what she's thinking and why she feels that way. So it keeps me from being combative. But if Nina says now's a bad time, I think, well, tell me what you think, Chad. Tell me what you're feeling there. And when she starts to have a conversation, it actually shifts. So that's one thing. I don't see them as some great challenge to overcome. The second thing is that if something is happening repeatedly in your consult, you're creating that circumstance through how you set the consult up. So when some of my work, I tell people, I don't do this, I'm bad at this is what it's going to cost. And so I've tried to effectively just take these things off the board that I'm not going to deal with or handle later. And we could get into more specifics of that if you want to ask another question. Frankly, I love the Q&A. But I think that's something we can do. In the toolkit, I can talk about rapport strategies, common pitfalls. I kind of went over common pitfalls. I'll give one, if it's okay, I'd like to give a thought on the digital age. And so on the digital age, you don't really have a choice about understanding digital. I think you all have to really start to dial in who the right client is for you in your practice area. And you're really intelligent. You need to decide, do I hire somebody who helps me learn that, where you might end up lighting a lot of money on fire, because there are people who are good at it and there are people who aren't. But the more that you can understand about how their potential client works, the better you can craft an experience for them to come into your world. I think AI is going to help with this a lot. I think you need to be able to have the right types of forms to get filled out, so that when they get to you, they're sort of filtered. And I've got a client now. Their firm takes inbound, outbound, everything. They do 10,000 phone calls a month. They do 40,000 texts a month. So that just tells you there's this massive shift, and it's a place you probably all want to be going. I'll talk about rapport in a second, and I'll also kind of get into specific needs, assuming you know they're that you know the case, and we'll go from there. That would sound good. Nina, do you want me to I could run through some things for another 5 or 7 minutes if that works.
Yeah, I think right now, if you want to answer more questions, of course, please feel free to. I know there's a few, but I think it'd be really helpful if you ran through your toolkit. I think it's really great information.
Yeah.
So those of you who have time to stay, please do. As I mentioned, I answered a couple of questions in the Q&A. We will be sending out these materials to you via email after the webinar is over. So please stay if you have time.
All right. I'll try not to put anybody to sleep. Okay. A few things that are going to sound incredibly elementary. Don't get mad at me. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you what's true. One of the things that will help with the way you run consults is pace. So when talking to a potential client, the slower you are is generally the better. When I coach people, we work on their pace a lot because they're typically too fast. Slower indicates more confidence and expertise. You lean in when someone speaks slower. It also enables the other person time to grasp what you're saying. If they're stressed and you slow down, they will actually start to slow down because they're going to mirror you as they feel connected. Pitch, lower is typically better than higher. I'm not saying the women have to sound like men, but we talk from the back of our throat when we're nervous. We talk from our gut or our chest when we're relaxed and comfortable. And that's a deeper pitch. The one we all think about who has the best pitch in the world is Morgan Freeman. It indicates relaxed, comfortable, and trustworthy. Okay? Tone is, you want to emphasize warmth. You don't want to emphasize RoboCop of attorneys. You don't need to be cheesy. You don't need to be salesy. You don't need to be overly happy, but warm. The way you'd greet a friend, all three of these things are subconscious indicators to the other person that they can trust you and that you're a safe person to talk to. And you need people to share things with you long before you get into depositions. Okay. Listening is going to be one of the keys. And you're thinking, I showed up and spent an hour and 20 minutes here. This guy tell me to listen. The consult is a time to listen. As I mentioned, people trust you based on how much you know about them. Okay. So doctors see malpractice suits in an inverse correlation to how much time they spend listening or they spend with the patient. Meaning, the more time they spend listening, the less likely they are to get sued. You want to be focused on talking max 40% of the consult. I encourage clients to be closer to 25 to 30% of the time. People need to be heard, especially early on. At this point, we've not talked about where you grew up. We've not talked about things you guys have in common. We've talked about how you sound and how much time you spend listening. Okay. Now, this is one of the things that you can practice on friends and family. You can start at a party, whatever you've got going on this weekend. One of the ways people comfort each other is to mirror body language, pace, pitch, tone, even vocabulary. We see it in the animal kingdom where primates, if one is stressed, the other one will mirror their posture and body language. If you want to bond with people more quickly, even potential clients, you just mirror. And great book on this is written by a guy named Chris Voss. He was a lead hostage negotiator for the FBI. And he talks about isopraxism, it's just imitation. But we copy each other to comfort each other. And you'll see couples who've been together a long time, they even start to look like each other. But you can actually imitate their actual words. So if Nina's talking to me and she says, it's been a really long day, I would sure repeat the last three words. I said, really long day? As if I'm saying, help me understand. What will happen is Nina has actually heard me use her language. So I sound like her, and she's going to actually elaborate. And now when she's elaborating, she's sharing more with me, making her feel closer. So this is going to happen on a subconscious level. And here's an example. Because a client might say, the city is going to cost us time. And you as the attorney might say, cost you time? And they say, yeah. And they will elaborate. And they'll say, 4 more weeks in this project. If you ask about that, they say, yeah, and it's costing us $100K per week. That $100K per week starts to become your anchor for those of you asking. Okay. So use this on friends and family. Just listen, really dial in and repeat back 2 to 3 words they said and watch what happens. Okay. Another tool Chris Voss taught, and I'd been using for a while, but he put a name on it and probably trademarked it, is called labeling. The labeling forces you to listen. And for many of you who want to rush to solve the problem, this will actually allow you to connect and build more trust. So it's preceded with words such as it sounds like, or it looks like, or I get the sense that. And what you're simply going to be doing is labeling the emotion or the feeling or the state that they're in. So you're going to do this when you notice strong emotion. You see that the person's fearful, stressed, anxious, or worried, or you realize there's probably more information that has bigger implications behind what they're saying. Okay. They might say, I can't believe this. Labeling and say, it sounds like you're really hurt, right? That's the way you're going to connect and they're going to feel understood. Okay. Somebody might say, I can't believe you do that. It sounds like you were caught off guard, right? So you just start labeling. Here's what I see. Here's what I'm hearing. Something you're already feeling. Just think about Monopoly. You don't pass go, right? Don't pass go without labeling. All right. I talked a little bit about cognitive behavioral therapy and motivational interviewing. So somebody asked a question about the issues that potential clients have. I'm going to pull up the question specifically if I can figure this out. Specific needs. So you typically are going to start most consults with tell me what's going on, and they're going to give you some issues. What I want you to do is to identify a problem that is ancillary to what you solve. Okay. In family law, it might be guardianship, it might be a divorce. All I want you to do, and just practice this on friends and family, is say, tell me more about that. People will always open up and give you more information. Now, your job as the attorney is to kind of be a detective and figure out where do I need to go with this. I'm not trying to make it sound esoteric. You'll know, right? If it's a divorce case, you're looking for certain issues. If it's a criminal case, you're looking for certain issues. If it's immigration, you're looking for certain issues. But then what I do is I'm going through a structure. I'm looking for specifics. Tell me about it. I'm getting specifics. I want to know time frame. I want to know what they've tried. I want to know if that worked. I want to know how it affected them. That's anchoring. I want to know about their feelings, and I'll probably summarize. So I'll say, Nina, tell me more about that. She'll give me some information. I might ask her, okay, what do you mean by this? Because people will start to always define things more clearly when you ask what they mean. And then I might say, when did this occur? How long has it been going on? I'll ask about alternatives. What have you tried? And then I want to know how that affected you, right? I want to know that. I might ask, how's that affected you financially? You're dealing with an estate issue. Some of you are in estate law. No one has to do anything right now unless they're like, that they're up against it. We want to start to anchor on that. Then I want to know how it's impacted you, how you feel about it personally. And then I might say, well, I might summarize and say, this is what I'm hearing. I come back and label it. So this is a tool that you're going to be with someone this weekend. If they're going to tell you something, I just want you to ask questions. They tell me more about that. What do you mean? You'll be astounded at how easy conversations go. Now, look, I just given you a few. I'm in Texas. Everywhere you go in Texas, Thomas J. Henry is killing it with billboard spend, radio, television. If you're not the leader in your market, if you're not the name brand in your practice area, in your market, you have to be able to win over new clients. People's skills combined with a good structure will help you get past the hesitation to work with you. They'll help you differentiate. And it'll help clients who aren't comfortable with a stranger or the law connect and bond with you. So that's kind of it. I mean, we could get into some deeper things. I don't have them in the presentation, but these are the things that I want you to take for processing and work with. So you all have been great. We've talked about what to avoid. We've given you a structure, and we've given you some basic people and communication skills. These are things that practice on coworkers, practice on family members and friends. Here's my information if you've got questions. And I'm so grateful to have been with you guys today. So Nina, you've been a wonderful hostess, and it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Adam. And thank you all for joining and spending a little extra time with us today. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did enjoy it, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos on law practice and legal marketing. See you in our next clip.